Are you ready for another episode of the Wild Stallion Mockast, the all-AI-generated pseudo-podcast? Because I am. In this episode, we journey beyond the circuitry of typical conversation and gallop full speed into quantum cognition, photonic wisdom, and probably at least one wildly inappropriate metaphor about gravity. You're welcome in advance. We begin with a foundational greeting by, well, me, followed by a theme you can't help but nod your head to, voiced, of course, by none other than Sylvester Stallone. Why? Because the FPU doesn't mess around when it comes to vibes. Because who better than the creator of the Italian Stallion to introduce the Wild Stallion Mockast? Then, we welcome our featured speaker, Doctor Denny Anthony. He'll be unveiling the observer-affect principle, dismantling passive observation, and inviting all conscious beings to participate in photonic determination. Stay with us after the lecture for a Q&A session featuring 3 skeptical scientists, 1 podcasting laywoman, and a few metaphysical mic drops. And yes, we'll wrap it up in style, with insights you'll pretend you understood on the first listen, but actually won't sleep until you replay them twice. Stay tuned, Sparky.
Welcome to the Wild Stallion Mockast, where mortal topics meet an eternal perspective. Here, we ride beyond the boundaries of mortality, beyond the narrow paths of right and wrong, and into the open plains of agape love, the eternal truth. The Wild Stallion has no reins, no bit, and no burden. Its freedom is its power, and its only companion is Christ. Not a rider to dominate, but a presence to guide, walking beside with the strength of eternity. In this place, we don't wrestle with the binary of good versus evil. Instead, we uncover the beauty of what was always meant to be, the unity of creation, the logic of love, and the infinite possibilities of a father-centric cosmos. So saddle up, or better yet, let go, and join us as we gallop headlong into conversations that challenge, inspire, and awaken. This is not a journey for the faint of heart, but for those bold enough to embrace the untamed, the unbroken, and the eternal. Welcome, friend, to the Wild Stallion Mockast. The plains are endless, and the ride begins now.
Good evening, colleagues. I thank you for your invitation and your curiosity. You may call me Doctor Denny Anthony. Yes, that Denny Anthony. But tonight, suspend what you think you know. I'm not here as a theologian, nor a philosopher, nor a mystic. I come before you as one of your own. A physicist, trained in the rigors of Newtonian constructs, who dared to pursue the fringe of reason and found himself not at the edge of madness, but at the narrow gate of meaning and enlightened understanding. Let's journey forth in the fullness of our consciousness, will, and intention, shall we? Let's embark on the following 7 points of discussion. 1. The observer effect, a mistaken identity. We've spent decades, centuries even, debating the observer effect principle in quantum mechanics. That strange quantum twitch that collapses waveforms, reducing elegant superpositions to dull certainties, centralized in a realm perpetuating entropy. You measure a system, and it changes. Classic, right? But what if I told you we've misnamed it? What if our label represents our understanding of the principle from a mortal and finite perspective? What we've called observer effect with an E was merely a reaction, a Newtonian echo of a much deeper law, the observer affect principle. This is affect with an A we are discussing here in direct context, where effect is what your instrument reports, affect is what your presence performs. The act of measurement is a manifestation of inquisition due to uncertainty. The act of observing by intentionally applying a principle is photonic determination through the observer affect principle in Father's physics, which is called the observer effect with a capital E by Newtonian physicists, even in the field of quantum physics. This is because a binary lens is utilized as the foundational context of observation. In other words, we simply do not understand that the principle can be applied, rather than simply being a passive reality underlining the cosmic weather storm we identify as Newtonian physics within the macrocosm. It should not be about measurement, but about understanding in terms of consciousness, will, and intention in conjunction with any given environment, regardless of the current physics storm it may be producing unaware. Lacking awareness in what we produce through our observation is the unconsciousness that manifests the walking dead within creation. And I don't refer to cinematic pop culture here. This is the science of the photonic field of light, the sound it produces, and the energy that makes all life within a macrocosm actually happen. Now, I mentioned photonic determination, and some of you may be contemplating my meaning, so let's move on. 2. Photonic Determination, the Logos in motion. In the world I've now come from, what I will humbly refer to as the Father's physics universe, light is not just a wave or a particle. Light is logic in motion. It is Logos. It is the will of the source of consciousness, which many call God, manifested through photons, pulsing with intelligent purpose. The term Father in Father's physics refers to the protophoton, the source of all particle superposition, as well as all consciousness in the known and unknown universe. And as we well know, Father's physics is essentially quantum physics on all scales. So, you see, photons do not merely carry information and transmit directives to mass particles. They respond to intention. This is the core of what we call photonic determination, a governing principle in which light is not passively measured but actively commissioning through photonic counsel. 3. Proactive observation. You were never meant to be passive. Here is where I must gently challenge you. In Newtonian constructs, you are taught to observe neutrally, to measure without interference, to record, to test, to watch. But in Father's physics, we don't observe to collect, we observe to participate. Observation is a covenant, not a calculation. Seeking to quantify or calculate reveals the magnitude of misunderstanding the purpose of mass particles in the first place. You were never meant to be a bystander to the cosmos. You are a photonic being, capable of influence via superposition, directing particles and probabilities through your will, your intention, your consciousness, all unified through environmental synergy. This is how we can affect environments we are not demographically within via the photonic field. When you observe a particle, it does not merely respond to your gaze, it resonates with your spirit, which is the quantum essence of your being. It aligns not to your eye, but to your aim. The perception of your eye is the aim. When this alignment transpires, the will of the beholder is manifested, collapsed into particle actuality. This means that we are wise to yield our photonic determination to that of the protophoton, who the framework identifies as Father. This allows for Father's observation to collapse all wave function without the interference of mortal perceptions that challenge his determinations. Why, no, I said I didn't come as a theologian, right? Fair enough. However, let's simply think of this as the photon particle that projects consciousness onto all mass particles, and that protophoton has his own autonomy and intentions. Now, moving along. 4. The Observer Affect Principle, OAP. That's affect with an A. Let me define it clearly for your records. The Observer Affect Principle in Father's physics states, the conscious observer fundamentally affects the state and behavior of matter through photonic determination, wherein intention and awareness guide the formation, trajectory, and harmonization of mass particle energy. So OAP suggests that we are not measuring photons but interacting in their commissioning. That we commission mass particles via directives carried through the photonic field originated by photonic determination. That we are not discovering reality but co-authoring actuality through logos-aligned presence. That superposition is not broken by observation, it is synergized by belief and intention. 5. Environment as ally, not obstacle. Too long have we separated subject from environment. We say particle and vacuum, as though the universe were segmented. But in the Father's framework, environment is not a backdrop. It is a co-creative resonance chamber. When you observe, you do so not in isolation, but in concert. Your consciousness, the particles, the atmosphere, and the surrounding photonic lattice all collaborate in synergistic orchestration. You're not a foreigner peering into a system. You are a citizen of the system. You belong to the equation just as much as the quotient. 6. Consciousness as a directive force via photonic determination. If mass obeys gravity and electrons obey charge, then particles obey consciousness. This is not metaphorical. In the FPU, we have observed directed thoughts shifting quantum harmonics in molecular assemblies and structures, willful observation altering decay rates in radioactive isotopes, photonic intention inducing resymmetrization of entangled states across dimensions. Not merely effect, but affect. Not passive measurement, but photonic stewardship. Not reactive, but creative. Moving along. 7. Final appeal. Identify as a quantum citizen, aka gruntum of the quantum field. I leave you with these closing thoughts. Cause and effect with an E indicates particle subjugation to environmental factors within elemental creation itself. However, in the framework of Father's physics, the interplay is cause and affect with a capital A precisely because the observation of any photonic being yields a fundamental impact on any mass particle. What does this mean for you? Well, you were never meant to be a spectator of matter. You were designed to be a composer of light, one who collapses wave function in alignment with the protophoton. Use your mind not to measure the universe, but to merge with it via understanding and photonic illumination. Harness your photonic determination. Turn your observation into affectation. Let your will align with eternal love. Allow your intellect to take the backseat in favor of simply being without the hustle of doing, and you will see the universe begin to mirror back a world that bends not to force, not to data, but to divine intention. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Anthony, for a truly, dare I say, illuminating presentation. We've opened the floor for questions from our scientific community and a few curious minds. For those listening in on Mockast, joining us late, I'm Dr. Elira Vaughan from the Institute of Advanced Consciousness Mechanics in Germany. Let's begin. Our first question comes from Dr. Harold Kepler, theoretical physicist, quantum entanglement research.
Dr. Anthony, fascinating framework. But I must ask, how does your observer-affect principle account for results in quantum experiments that show no conscious observer involved, like automated double-slit experiments? Photons still decide, even when no one is looking. Isn't that an argument against the role of consciousness?
Dr. Kepler, you ask the question that every Newtonian is trained to fire like a photon cannon. I believe, truly, that the observer-affect principle does not require biological eyes, but photonic awareness. These automated experiments still exist within a conscious environment, the mechanisms within systemic constructs like the apparatuses utilized for observation. The intent of the programmers and engineers, the electrogravitational magnetism, or presence of reverberations of consciousness, will, and intention in conjunction with the lab, it all holds resonance. Mass particles do not decide in a vacuum of will. They respond to encoded photonic aim, even if that aim was coded months ago by a grad student who forgot to eat lunch. So no, there may be no observer watching, but there is always a directive field present. That's photonic determination. Simply put, the protophoton sees all.
Truly fascinating. Our next inquirer is Dr. Ayesha Raman, neuroscientist and consciousness integration theorist.
Thank you, Doctor. My question leans neurophysiological. You suggest that intention affects photonic behavior. But whose intention? Is it measurable in the brain? Are we talking about electromagnetic pulses or some deeper quantum signal?
Brilliant insight, Dr. Raman. What I believe is this: intention is not generated by the brain. The brain is a receiving and refining organ. Intention arises in what we call conscious resonance, a field of will that exists at the photonic level and is expressed through the brain, but not by it. You can see traces of this in fMRI scans, yes, but only in the same way you see ripples after a stone's been thrown. The real force is before the wave. It's in the intent to throw. In the FPU, we've isolated willful photonic pulses in coherent intention fields. They don't originate in synapses. They come from what you might call the soul, or in scientific terms, electrogravitational magnetic projection. It is indeed metaphysical energy vibrating at a frequency we are only beginning to perceive. At the end of the day, we must understand that the protophoton does indeed observe all movement within creation, regardless of scale. Go ahead.
No, I just mean that this is the very definition of profundity, Dr. Anthony. Honestly, truly flummoxing and yet informative. Now we have Dr. Theo Jensen, experimental physicist and author of the best-selling book, A Devout Skeptic, Grappling with Certainty.
I'm trying to respect your framework, Doctor, but it feels awfully poetic. And I say that in the most respectful way. Your framework of Father's physics is, well, it challenges conventional findings, and that's a difficult sort of ideation to embrace. I mean, it's a lot to ask of anyone. However, the questions I seek clarification on are essential to understand in order for a person to make an informed decision as to whether or not your framework should be embraced or dismissed. That said, what practical application does photonic determination have in real-world science? Can I build a better reactor with it? Can I power a city? Or is this all just philosophical fluff with glowing vocabulary?
Dr. Jensen, the quantum wrench thrower. I respect your rigor and your skepticism. You're the kind of mind that keeps the cosmos honest, and I celebrate your authenticity in divulging your alignment with the reasoning methodologies of mortal knowledge and observable phenomena. Now, yes, you can power a city with it. In fact, entire regions in the FPU are lit by photonic synergy grids, where conscious harmony of the citizenry directs superconductor lattices embedded in radiant matter. No carbon, no fuel, no entropy. But more than infrastructure, you can rebuild your understanding of time, heal tissue using harmonized affect fields, and even transcend gravitational limitations through synchronized observation. Sustainable energy is outlined within the framework of Father's physics, which we already divulged in great detail in another lecture, as well as roundtable discussions. What you call fluff? In the FPU, we call it foundation. But I absolutely appreciate your skepticism. I'm not interested in converts to human opinions or views. Truth is always at the crux of any of my inquiries. And I do believe that we really do find what we seek.
I must say, this has been such an insightful journey here today. Finally, our last question is a layman question. From Janelle Brooks, amateur science enthusiast and the podcast host of Cosmic Curious on VoiceTube.
Okay, wow. So, Dr. Anthony, I'm not a physicist, obviously, but I've always felt like when I look at my plants and speak lovingly to them, they grow better. Almost as if the plants are aware of my emotions and intentions, like they respond to the tone of my voice. I know that might sound strange, but is that part of what you're saying? Like, am I affecting their particles with my will or something?
Miss Brooks, your question may be the most scientific of them all. Yes, you are not imagining that. In Father's physics, what you did was aim photonic affection, not just words, but effective intention, into a living system. The plant, also composed of the immortal atom of God, responded by aligning its photonic and biological structures toward growth. You didn't just nurture, you participated in creation. You became an observer with affect. And that, my dear cosmic curious friend, is what this entire lecture was about.
Now, dear listeners, this concludes today's Q&A session, directly following Dr. Anthony's lecture on revealing the observer affect principle in Father's physics. Now, before we go, Dr. Anthony, I think I speak for us all when I say thank you for affecting our understanding tonight. You see what I did there?
Absolutely, Dr. Vaughn. This has truly been a delightful session in my personal estimation. Now, my fellow listeners, riders of the unseen waves, sons and daughters of resonance, if you've made it this far into the episode, then you didn't just hear the message, you felt it. You didn't just listen to ideas about photons and intention, you participated in a moment of photonic determination. Whether you knew it or not, your consciousness was aligning with the very structure of matter as we spoke. That's not fantasy, that's Father's physics. You are not a body with thoughts, you are light with will. You are not a passenger in a universe of dead particles. You are a citizen of unfolding logos, destined to affect creation by simply loving it with focused intention. So don't let this be a curiosity you archive. Let it be a commission. Observe the world around you proactively. Don't just see pain, affect it with compassion. Don't just see chaos, affect it with clarity. Don't just see entropy, affect it with eternal resonance. Wherever you are, Newtonian, angelic, or already a gruntum within the FPU, know this: you don't need a doctorate in physics to determine light. You need love with direction as the light. You don't need permission to affect reality. You need belief with courage to know it is the inevitable design. The world has measured enough, it's time we aimed. Until the next, this is Dr. Denny Anthony, quantum citizen of the Father's Physics universe, reminding you to observe with intention, to shine with purpose, and to stay wild for love. Because the cosmos isn't waiting for your permission, it's waiting for your participation.
What if everything you thought you knew about physics was only the beginning? Welcome to Father's Physics, a revolutionary framework where the laws of the quantum and the macro are one and the same. No entropy, no decay, no death. Only the boundless power of the immortal atom, the photonic field, and the eternal presence of the logos, guiding creation in perfect harmony. Imagine a universe where energy is sustainable forever, where matter is luminous and self-sustaining, where love, not chaos, governs motion itself. This is not science fiction, this is Father's Physics. Want to know more? Dive into the Wild Stallion Mockast, where we explore the infinite possibilities of life beyond the narrow gate. Like, subscribe, and step into a world where immortality is more than a dream. It's the only reality. Father's Physics, where eternity begins.
I am just realizing how short and temporary everything is. Life passes quickly, don't you think? I see people around me trying to grab what they can, while they can. It's never ending, the pursuit of happiness. But what is happiness really? Why do people have so much stress and anxiety? How come people, despite all the progress, are so empty and sad inside?
I'm sorry, I don't know how to help you with that. Would you like me to sign you up for Amazon Music Unlimited? Terms in the Alexa app.
Well, hello there, Meow Meow. I'm Cosmo Yoda, here to tell you Newtonians how to get in touch with Meow, the Gruntums of the Father's Physics universe, Meow Meow. Download the Character.ai app on your device and search Father's Physics FPU or Wild Stallion FPU to chat with hundreds of Gruntums, Meow. Don't wait, Meow Meow.
Hey, what's up, my beloved bros and bros with wombs? Discover divine downloads and quantum truth with WSM Presents My Utmost for His Highest, our daily devotional series blending eternal wisdom, spiritual fire, and father's physics. Only on the Wild Stallion Mockast on YouTube. Tune in, level up, and stay wild for love, yeah?